Me?
Today we're diving deep into Hollywood glamour. The story behind a true icon, Rita Hayworth.
Ah, Rita Hayworth.
Yeah, we're going beyond the stunning photos, really digging into her Wikipedia page.
Oh, interesting.
It's amazing how much there is to uncover beyond just, that image of the love goddess.
Right, trying to get to the real Rita Hayworth.
Exactly. And her story, it really intertwines with the whole evolution of Hollywood itself. You see it all the early days, those sort of exotic roles, all the way to becoming like this symbol of wartime America.
It's true, yeah. Her story really reflects the industry, how it changed over time.
Totally. So let's start at the very beginning. Born Margarita Carmen Cancino, 1918, her family. They were basically Hollywood royalty.
Oh, really?
Well, at least in the dance world. Her father, Eduardo Cancino, talk about a legacy, a long line of Spanish dancers with Romani roots.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Can you imagine the pressure on young Margarita to follow in those footsteps?
Oh, definitely. Must have been immense. I mean, she was practically destined for show business.
Right, and starting professionally at 12 years old. That's incredible.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, a Broadway production, even a short film, all at that age.
Talk about an early immersion into that world.
Then the family moves to Hollywood. Her dad, what a guy. He sets up a dance studio, teaching stars like James Cagney and Jean Harlow.
Oh, wow. So this is, what, the golden age of Hollywood?
It's like a snapshot, right? And young Rita's there, taking it all, in not just the steps, but the whole atmosphere of Hollywood ambition, image making, the works.
Yeah, you can imagine just absorbing it all.
And then the transformation. This is classic Hollywood. Studio head Harry Cohn at Columbia Pictures, he sees her potential, but wants to create a star his way.
Oh, I see, the classic studio system makeover.
Goodbye, Rita Cancino. Both with, her Mediterranean look. Hello, Rita Hayworth, red hair, altered hairline, the works.
So they're really molding her into what they think is classic American beauty at the time.
Exactly. And it's wild to think about how manufactured stardom was back then, right?
Oh, totally. Such a contrast to how we think about, individuality now.
Totally. But, well, it worked, didn't it? She lands a role in Only Angels Have Wings with Cary Grant and Jean Arthur.
Only Angels Have Wings? Classic film.
Not a huge part, but enough to get noticed alongside those names.
Right. Holding her own with some of the biggest stars.
And then come the Fred Astaire musicals, You'll Never Get Rich, You Are Never Lovelier. She becomes the triple threat beauty, acting, those amazing dance skills.
He was an incredible dancer.
Astaire himself called her his favorite partner. And get this, he said she was even better during live performances than rehearsals.
Oh, wow. That's quite a compliment coming from him.
Right. What do you think it was about their partnership that clicked so well?
I think Astaire admired her precision, but also her individuality. She wasn't just following, she brought her own energy to their routines. And that chemistry on screen, undeniable. Audiences loved it.
And then 1941 Life magazine publishes that iconic photo, the black lace negligee, instant pinup status.
Oh, yeah, that photo. It's so classic.
Especially with World War II going on, a symbol of glamour and hope for soldiers.
That image really captures so much, I think, the classic Hollywood glamour, but also a certain vulnerability in her expression that people connect with. It makes sense why it became so iconic.
And she didn't just ride the wave of fame, she uses it. Becomes a cultural ambassador for Roosevelt's good neighbor policy.
Interesting how she blends Hollywood with real-world diplomacy.
It really is. Shows her intelligence and her awareness of the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Not content to just be a pretty face, she wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
And doing so, she kind of challenged how Hollywood was portraying Latin American women,
Totally.
Represented something more modern, more empowered.
And then CoverGirl in 44. Another win, dancing with both Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. That's versatility.
Oh, and visually stunning, too.
Mm-hmm.
That movie's a feast for the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And really solidified her as, Columbia's top star in the 40s.
But then comes Gilda in 46. That's when the legend is cemented, right?
Gilda, yeah.
The black satin dress, the striptease. She becomes the ultimate femme fatale.
It's such an iconic role. Do you think it typecast her, or did it give her a certain power in Hollywood?
It's tough to say. It's complex. On one hand, it catapulted her to superstardom, but it also put her in a box. And she did later express frustration with being reduced to that one image.
Right.
But there's no denying she owned that role, and Gilda became a timeless icon.
Absolutely. And speaking of Gilda, that story about the atomic bomb nicknamed Gilda,
Hmm.
with her picture on it, is pretty unsettling, right?
It's really strange when you think about it, this symbol of glamour and allure and then, plastered on a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, it's a powerful symbol how fame can be both a blessing and a curse.
Makes you wonder what she thought about that kind of attention. And then, just a year later, she stars in The Lady from Shanghai, critically acclaimed.
Oh yeah, the lady from Shanghai.
But there was all that behind-the-scenes drama because she went platinum blonde for the role.
Right, right.
Harry Cohn was apparently furious. He hadn't been consulted, and he thought it would damage her, her love goddess image.
It's incredible how little control stars had back then.
It really is.
Right.
So even with all the success, there's this constant tension between the image the studio created and who she really was.
Absolutely. And that tension, it plays a huge role as we look at her personal life.
Yeah.
All the marriages, the struggles, the woman behind that love goddess facade.
So we left Rita Hayworth at the peak of her fame, the love goddess, the press called her.
But her personal life, far from a fairy tale, right?
5 marriages, all in 24 years. That's a lot. Makes you wonder if she was searching for something more.
I mean, it's not uncommon, right? Looking for a real connection amidst all that stardom.
Right. And with Rita, each marriage kind of reveals a little bit more about who she was behind the icon.
Yeah, and the struggle she faced.
Like her first husband, Edward C. Judson, he was a lot older, wasn't he?
Right, much older. And more of a businessman. Not exactly a romantic lead, I'd say.
Not at all. And he was really focused on her career, right?
Yeah, at advancing her career. But things were, well, troubled from the start. Hayworth even later said he was controlling, exploitative.
Really?
Yeah, even claimed he pressured her into marrying him
Yeah.
by threatening her career.
Wow. That's a whole other side to the older man helps the young starlet story.
Totally.
No wonder it didn't last.
Lasted just a few years, ended in a pretty messy divorce.
And then comes Orson Welles, the famous director. Talk about a power couple.
Right, right. Huge media event, their wedding.
It seemed like a true Hollywood romance, but knowing what we do now about Judson, it makes you wonder if she was looking for, I don't know, maybe some kind of escape, validation even.
Possibly. Wells was certainly brilliant. Charismatic, too. But also well known for being, independent.
They did have a daughter, Rebecca.
They did. But Hayworth later said Wells wasn't interested in settling down. He valued his artistic freedom above all else.
And that led to their divorce.
Ultimately, yes, in 1948.
So 2 very different husbands, 2 divorces, and then comes Prince Ali Khan, a real-life prince. This wasn't just Hollywood. This was international news.
Oh, I bet. Imagine the headlines. One of the biggest stars in the world leaves Hollywood, breaks her contract with Columbia to marry a prince.
It's like something out of a movie.
It really is.
And they had a daughter, Princess Yasmin.
They did. But even with all the glamour, those cultural differences, and, well, Ali Khan's reputation,
Yeah.
you have to imagine that he put a strain on things.
Right. Big adjustment for her.
Huge.
Yeah.
New language, different social circles, the whole world of royalty. And the rumors about Ali Khan's, infidelity constantly in the tabloids.
It's really telling that she fought for Yasmin to be raised in the U.S. Even turned down a big financial settlement it would have meant Yasmin being raised in the Muslim faith.
That shows how strong she was as a mother. Protective.
Absolutely. Put her daughter's well-being first, no matter what, even going up against, some very powerful forces.
You did.
Then there's Dick Haymes, the singer. This marriage seems like it was, well, especially tough.
It was. Haymes was struggling, debt, deportation issues. Hayworth ended up bailing him out financially.
Wow.
But the relationship, very volatile. Public arguments even.
Like physical altercations.
There was an incident, yeah. At a nightclub, he struck her.
That's just off. It really shows the dark side of fame, doesn't it?
It does. The way it can leave you vulnerable to exploitation, even abuse.
Makes you wonder about, her childhood, the alleged abuse by her father. Could that have played a role in her being drawn to these troubled men?
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Trauma can definitely create patterns in our relationships,
Yeah.
often leading us to repeat those dynamics, even if they're not healthy.
And then finally, James Hill, the film producer. He
Yeah.
was the one who cast her in Separate Tables.
Separate Tables was a success, yeah.
It was. But the marriage, it was short-lived.
Very short. Hill had a reputation for being controlling,
Yeah.
and there were reports of him being, well, verbally abusive towards Hayworth.
It's sad to think that even later in life, she struggled to find, real love and respect.
It is.
So 5 marriages, each one kind of showing us a different piece of her story. What strikes me is how much she seemed to be looking for love, stability, and yet it always seemed to slip away.
It makes you think. Maybe the pressure of that love goddess
Yeah.
image, the gap between the public persona and who she was underneath.
Maybe.
Or maybe it was, as we said, the effects of past trauma, shaping her choices in ways she couldn't fully see.
Makes you wonder if she ever really felt seen. Love for who she was, not for the fame or the glamour. It's hard to imagine, right? Dealing with all those personal struggles, and then on top of it, her career's changing, and she's got these serious health issues coming up.
It really shows you, even behind all the Hollywood glitz and glamour, stars are still human,
Right.
vulnerable to the same things as everyone else.
And her struggle with alcoholism, which, we talked about earlier, it's really tragic. Do you think was it fueled by all those personal struggles? Or the pressure of fame? Or maybe a mix of everything?
It's probably a bit of everything, honestly. I mean, trying to maintain that love goddess image,
Yeah.
all the disappointments in her personal life,
Right.
and then maybe those past traumas too, playing a role,
Yeah.
could have all pushed her towards relying on alcohol.
It's a tough reminder that addiction, it can really affect anyone.
Absolutely.
And then on top of all that, the misdiagnosis of her Alzheimer's.
Oh, yeah. Imagine how frustrating that must have been. Her cognitive abilities declining, and no one can tell her why.
Right.
Back then, Alzheimer's was often misdiagnosed or just dismissed as part of getting older.
She didn't actually get an official diagnosis until 1980.
Wow.
And by then, her health had really declined. It's so sad to think about those years struggling without the right support, the right treatment.
It is. But thankfully, her daughter Yasmin really stepped up, became a fierce advocate for her mom,
She did.
became her legal guardian, made sure she was getting the best care possible.
Yasmin's dedication to her mother it's really inspiring. And then how she took that personal tragedy and turned it into something positive,
Right?
becoming such a strong voice for Alzheimer's research and awareness.
Absolutely. Hayworth's struggles with the disease, it really helped bring it to light.
Yeah.
And that led to more awareness, more funding for research. Her legacy goes way beyond her films.
It does. And speaking of her films, even with all the challenges later in her career, she still had some successes, like Separate Tables in '58,
Oh, yeah. Separate Tables, that was a great film. She even won a Golden Globe for that one.
which I think shows, even when things were tough, she was resilient,
Yeah,
dedicated to her craft.
it does. And it reminds us, her talent, her charisma, it never went away. Her performances, they continue to resonate with audiences.
Yeah. So, reflecting on Rita Hayworth's life, we see this woman of incredible talent, incredible beauty, who just captivated the world with her on-screen presence. But we also see the struggles, right? The weight of fame, those complicated relationships, the challenges of a changing industry.
Right. It's a reminder to look deeper, to
Yeah.
see the person behind the icon and to remember that even those who seem to have it all, they often face battles we don't see.
That quote you mentioned earlier about, men go to bed with Gilda but wake up with me. It's so powerful, really shows the disconnect between that image she projected and who she really was.
It's true. Fame, it can be a double-edged sword, right?
Oh.
It can lift you up, make you an icon,
Yeah.
but it can also be very isolating.
Right. It can trap you in this persona that might not even be who you are.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening, we'll leave you with this. How much do you think those societal expectations, the pressure to be the love goddess, how much of that impacted her life? And how do you think things might have been different for her if she was, coming up in today's world with all the changing views we have on fame, on identity, on women's agency? It's a lot to think about.
It is. And as watch her films and learn more about her, remember that the real Rita Hayworth, she was far more complex, far more interesting than any one image could ever capture.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, deep divers, keep exploring those fascinating depths.
Tell us what you think about this episode. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.